It all began that night with a crackling whisper in David Chen's headphones. It was just a routine shift until a strange, intermittent sound from that frequency defied all known military protocols. Because within hours, a city with thousands of innocent lives could have been wiped off the map. That incoming crackling sound wasn't just a terrifying harbinger of an impending disaster. It also whispered the encrypted key to humanity's salvation, a puzzle David had to solve by risking his career and conscience. One of the most invisible battlefronts of war is the silent, constant struggle across radio waves. Thousands of frequencies, meaningless static, encrypted messages. At the heart of this complex network operate analysts like Specialist David Chen. David was one of the U.S. Army's most skilled signals intelligence SIGINT experts. Every moment he put on his headset, he listened to all the whispers, cries, and ciphers of a battlefield, spanning thousands of miles. His mission was simple, yet vital: to detect the slightest anomaly, the weakest signal within enemy communications, and to identify threats in time. David lived in a world of numbers and graphs, illuminated by the dim glow of a computer screen. For him, war was on the thin line between a screen and a pair of headphones. At a clandestine listening post in Germany, David's shift was business as usual. Sipping his cold coffee, he performed routine frequency scans. That night, tensions in Eastern Europe were at their peak. On his analysis screen, known enemy radio traffic flowed normally. Patrol reports, supply chain updates, a jumble filled with deceptive signals. David, with experience gained from sleepless nights, could instantly discern subtle anomalies even in this noise. His fingers danced swiftly across the keyboard, trying out decryption algorithms. Towards midnight, during a routine scan, an unusual periodic crackle caught David's attention in his headphones. The sound came from outside normal military frequencies. It was faint and garbled, as if someone was using very old or very primitive equipment. This wasn't a typical enemy cipher. David frowned. The sound didn't seem familiar. Even stranger, within the signal, there was a thin, tinkling, melody-like sound that lasted only for seconds. Moreover, this signal wasn't coming from military zones, but from a densely populated civilian area. David immediately recorded the signal and began tracking it. This couldn't be interference. It had a specific pattern. Automated decryption algorithms failed. This message resembled no known encryption method. David was facing something beyond his experience. After hours of intense effort, he tried to manually isolate the signal, filter out the noise, and capture the repeating pattern of that subtle melody. He was running on sleeplessness and coffee. Finally, David noticed something. The melody contained notes from very old Soviet-era children's song, and these notes repeated at specific intervals. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Could this be a Morse code, or even older, a musical cipher? It was risky. Were the enemy communicating with such a primitive method, or was this a deception? David began sifting through the oldest encryption handbooks. In a very rare Soviet espionage theory book from the Cold War era, titled Coding with Children's Songs, he found a section discussing a system where specific melodies were converted into letters. He held his breath. This was unbelievable. As he began to decrypt the signal according to this ancient encryption system, David quietly got up from his seat. After that night, David Chen's name became a legend within the military intelligence corridors. He was no longer just Specialist Chen. He was known as the Frequency Captain. This nickname was a testament to his extraordinary ability, his unique intuition for finding lost hope within the complex labyrinth of signals. Everyone who knew him was certain that the quiet and reserved David was the man behind that night's miracle. But for David, the greatest reward wasn't a military medal or a promotion. It was the photographs of the rescued children. The sound of that children's song was no longer a threat, but an anthem of salvation. He had turned a whisper of death from enemy frequencies into the melody of life. However, the echoes of victory left an unexpected void within David. He had saved a city, saved thousands of lives, but this left him grappling with a profound sense of loneliness and exhaustion. No one could truly comprehend the real weight and pressure of his mission that night. The strangeness of the encrypted message, the immense tension he felt while trying to convince his superiors, all had left deep imprints on his soul. He struggled to sleep at night. Sometimes he'd still hear the crackling sounds, and at other times, the unsettling melody of the children's song. Even as the laughter of the children he saved echoed in his mind, he carried an invisible burden on his shoulder. A few weeks later, David was assigned a special duty. He had to classify the grateful letters and drawings sent by the families of the rescued children. This was a routine desk job, but for David, it was different. Each letter, each brightly colored drawing, showed him the lives he had saved in a tangible way. In one drawing, there was a dam with a shining sun above it. Beneath it, in simple letters, was written, "Hero, Soldier David." These drawings slowly began to fill the void within David. They were the concrete results of his secret war. During this process, a single letter from a small girl caught his attention. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words touched his heart. "Thank you, Mr. Headset, for listening to my song." David Chen's story powerfully reminds us that heroism isn't always forged on the front lines, amidst the deafening roar of gunfire and the blinding flash of explosions. Sometimes, the most pivotal battles are won in the quiet solitude of a dimly lit room, fought between a screen, a headset, and an unwavering human spirit. This military radio operator, this frequency captain, didn't wield a weapon to save the world. He managed it by simply listening with an open mind, understanding the unheard, and believing in the faint echoes of hope that others dismissed as mere static. His headphones, once merely tools for intercepting signals, became conduits for something far greater, the resonant voice of humanity's conscience itself, a voice that, in the darkest hour, became an anthem for thousands of saved lives. His tale echoes far beyond the silent walls of a SIGINT station, transcending the boundaries of military life and resonating with anyone who believes in the power of vigilance and the profound impact of paying attention. David's quiet dedication proved that heroism isn't always about grand gestures, but often about the meticulous, unseen work that holds the fabric of society together. He transformed a technical duty into a moral imperative, turning cold data into the warm reality of countless lives now breathing freely. It serves as a profound testament to the idea that even in a world obsessed with visible power and loud pronouncements, the most transformative changes can originate from the seemingly insignificant, from a single, determined ear tuned to a frequency others ignore. And for those who seek inspiration, David Chen's legacy whispers a timeless truth, that the capacity to make a profound difference often lies not in what you possess, but in how deeply you listen, how genuinely you care, and how bravely you act on what only you can hear. David's experience also became a cornerstone for a new philosophy within military intelligence, one that emphasized not just the interception of threats, but the humanitarian potential of signals analysis. His methods, once viewed with skepticism, are now studied as a prime example of intuitive analysis, combined with unwavering moral conviction. He began mentoring new recruits, instilling in them not just the technical skills, but the ethical responsibility that comes with holding such sensitive information. He often reminded them, "Every static whisper has a story. Your job is to hear the human heart within the noise." His dedication redefined what it meant to be a military asset, proving that the greatest strength lies not just in firepower, but in foresight, empathy, and the courage to act on an improbable truth. The city he saved stands today as a living monument not to a battle won by force, but to a disaster averted by the quiet heroics of a man who simply chose to listen. Even years later, the frequency captain remains a legend whispered among analysts, a reminder that the true measure of a soldier's impact isn't always tallied in victories or defeats, but in the unseen battles won, the innocent lives protected, and the quiet dignity maintained amidst chaos. His story continues to inspire not just within the armed forces, but in every corner of the world, where people strive to make a difference through quiet vigilance and an unwavering commitment to human life. It's a powerful narrative that challenges us to look beyond the obvious, to listen more intently, and to recognize that the most profound forms of bravery often resonate in the silence. Have you ever encountered a hero like David who went beyond their duties to save lives? Perhaps you know someone who quietly made a huge impact. Share their stories in the comments. Because at Legacy Stories, we believe the most powerful stories aren't always in plain sight. Sometimes they whisper in our ears, and we can catch the frequency of hope even in the darkest moments. If this story touched you, subscribe, share, and help us bring these inspiring voices to the world. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, remember, Some heroes don't carry weapons. They wear headsets and change the world by listening.